Why hello there everybody, I'm Spencer, also known as Lego Dude 11, and in today's video, this is my Across the Spider-Verse spoiler review. I am going to spoil the hell out of this movie. So, without further ado, let's discuss. Okay, so as mentioned, this is my spoiler review for Across the Spider-Verse, and there's just things in this that I am overjoyed about. This was my most anticipated movie of the year, and I have to tell you, it lived up to that. It lived up to that. I got my Spider-Man merch here. I got my No Way Home shirt on. I don't have an Into the Spider-Verse shirt, so I went with the next best thing I had with this awesome movie here. But this was such a great, out of the gate, greatest comic book movie, in my opinion, greatest Spider-Man movie, beats out No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse for me. Those two are up there, but this one beats it out of the park. With all the references and Easter eggs that I'll get to later, this one takes the cake for that. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and Marvel, and this animation, let me just get into it. So the score, I'm not going to do it beat by beat, but the score of this is incredible. Me and my one friend, we were talking, and she's like, the score just hit every beat, every time. I listened to the soundtrack the day of. We saw this in IMAX. My friends and I saw this in IMAX. Worth the IMAX experience, I'll tell you that much. I'm not a 3D guy, but seeing this at IMAX for a splurge time, this was worth it. The screen is so big and it's in your face, and my eyes, and I was smiling I was so giddy. My eyes were glued to the screen. I could not take my eyes off of it. Like, I could not look away. Why would I look away? But that's the thing, though. The screen, there's just so much stuff with the pixelated intro. But the score, Daniel Pemberton just knocks it out of the park with the different worlds, which I'll get to later, the different motifs you hear for certain characters, and, I'm making all these sorts of gestures here. But just the different worlds, the motifs, Miles Morales' theme, slaps, all this stuff. I love Daniel Pemberton, even though the only thing I've heard of him is the first Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and then a couple of Netflix films like the Sherlock Holmes, the Lona Holmes thing. It's sporadic, like the Dark Crystal thing. He's done a little bit, but I haven't heard much. But what he does is great, especially in this film. So I don't want to dwell too much on the sound and the music side of things, but the music is incredible. Go look up the soundtrack if you haven't seen this movie yet. What I do and get pumped up for the movie and listen to the soundtrack first. Anyway, don't try to take my advice. Moving onwards, the characters and the arcs here are beautiful. More specifically, we start off this movie with Gwen's story. I was not expecting it. I honestly was expecting to start out with Miles. And then we get this amazing cold open with Gwen's backstory with her dad. Excuse me. It's beautiful. And her world, the animation that they make reminded me of the first episode of Star Wars Vision Season 2, which has this paint element, like the walls or the scenery is just changing colors, like this paint dripping, and her hair changes colors between the scenes, and there's different layers. It's just beautiful. And I'll talk more about the animation later, but her world is stunning. We see how how she tried to help her friend Peter Parker, who turns into the Lizard a little bit later. And her dad doesn't know that she's Spider-Woman in this universe. So he wants to have a manhunt go after Spider-Woman, who he thinks killed Peter Parker, because he knows Peter Parker really well. He's Gwen's friend. But then she reveals that she's Spider-Woman to her dad, and then that's when Miguel 2099, there's a big fight with Vulture. Great fight scene. I have an issue with this movie. It's not an issue with the movie. I just wish, because the first movie had 6 villains, I was like, ooh, okay, who are the new villains going to be? And there's 2.5 in this movie. It's not a gripe on the movie. It's just something I was excited to see, and there's not a lot of villains in this movie. But that's not a knock on the film at all. But we have a great fight with Vulture, with Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Miguel 2099 coming in, along with Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, the actual Spider-Woman, because I was wondering if they were going to discuss like Spider-Woman versus Spider-Woman or Spider-Gwen and do a name change, but they didn't do that, which is fine. Great fight scene with the Vulture, because they were like, it was like the Renaissance type Vulture, so I kind of like that, how they incorporated that style of character. The animation for Vulture was gorgeous. The whole animation movie, it's beautiful. And then Gwen teams up with 2099. Spider-Man leaves her dad there in that world, and then after that, Gwen's theme also was great as well. Then we transition from that like cold open. I don't know how long that was, 10, 15 minutes. I don't know. This movie flew by. I didn't look at my phone once. My friend turned on his phone, and I was just like, the whole rest of the movie, I didn't pay attention to the time. The movie ends. So anyway, that cold open ends. Then we get the introduction of the Spider-Verse, the same way the first movie opens, like with the 42, the like I could just do it. And then the 42, the Spider, and then we get Miles Morales. We don't get Miles Morales yet. We see him, I think it might be the introduction of the Spot then. That was next. And there's great character arcs, by the way, with Gwen, Miles, and even Spider-Man 2099, and all this backstory that I'll talk about later, this Spider-Man lore. But the Spot is such a great villain. How I was mentioning earlier, that just a little bit ago, that there's not a lot of villains in this movie, but I think it does it well, because the first movie has like 6 villains. They have like this Sinister Six. They have like Kingpin, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Tombstone, Scorpion, and Prowler. But they do it in a way, they mix all these villains in nicely. Tombstone and Scorpion are kind of sidelined, like they're not like the main stars, but I liked seeing them in there. But this one, Spot is front and center. We have the little Vulture fight in the beginning, and then we have this one other armadillo villain who's just there for like a quick second and he is thrown away. Kind of a sad moment. But I digress anyway. With Spot, I was trying to thought lost. Spot, his backstory, the way he's introduced is so good, and then he gets so menacing so fast. It's great. This interpretation, I shouldn't say interpretation, what the actor brings to the table is phenomenal. Jason Schwartzman, I love him on screen, and hearing him do a voice is even better. Like, I can just picture him in my mind, and then seeing him do this character is phenomenal. And the way he's introduced, the character that Miles threw the scientist through the bagel, where he got hit by the bagel when he's learning to swing from Alchemax, that's that guy. Like, that's a really crucial, like, such a random person, but then a crucial character in this next film is just mind-blowingly awesome. Such a mind-blowingly awesome story, like, tie-in to make. It's incredible. But I loved it. And then going forward on that, the Spot pops into different universes with his holes. Miles does some does a fight with him because he's trying to get into his like school with his parents, and he's trying to talk with his advisor at school with his parents about his grades, and he's meanwhile having this side fight with the Spot. After that all happens, there's this talk with the advisor, and then the Spot comes back in and is going through different dimensions in his holes, and he sees one universe that's the Venom universe with Miss Chen from the shop. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this movie's really going. Okay. And then we go into the Lego universe. I was like, yes! I forgot that is happening. Because before I was like, they're like, what universe is the best and whatever. Like, the Lego universe was pretty fun to go into. And like, really? It was such a treat to see that in here. My friends and I were excited about that because not only am I into Lego, but it was a treat to see more Lego on the big screen. So I hope after this movie Lego sees this and goes, "Yeah, we need to do another Lego movie." I don't know. I don't know. But those were two worlds, universes I love to see. The other worlds now, before I go into the story and the fight scenes, I want to talk about the other worlds and the animation and the characters. So we see Spider-Man. We get into the story, and the Spot is trying to get more power using other colliders from Alchemax in other Spider universes, or just other universes, not other Spider. And then we see other Spider-Man pop up before we get to the Spider lair. And we see Spider-Man in Mumbattan. We see Peter Parker, Spider-Man India. We see Hobie, Spider-Punk. Two great characters teaming up, and they're also in the team up at the end. But they are awesome. They are awesome. The Spider-Man India is voiced by Dopinder from the Deadpool, the taxi driver. Ugh, such a good voice casting, great in here, and the chai tea reference was awesome. It's not chai tea, it's just chai, because chai tea is TT. And then we have Hobie, voiced by Daniel Kalula. Good job. Ben Reilly is also in here. He's not introduced in this scene, but Ben Reilly's here as Andy Samberg is voicing him, who's in Hotel Transylvania, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers voice. Really cool stuff. I liked hearing him in here. Ben Reilly has some nice scenes. He's not in the movie much, but I like that when he got his time to shine, just a little bit here and there, was cool. The other worlds, like the Mumbattan, was beautifully designed. Gwen's world, as I talked about, was animated well. Hobie, Spider-Punk, took 2 to 3 years to animate him. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was just watching this going, I understand why he did, because of all this movement. It's insane. The way he was moving with the guitar and his face and his mask, and it was so good. I couldn't get enough of it. I just want to watch it again. The characters, and then this story with the lore in the beginning with Gwen's story, when I talk about how they had this cold open with Gwen trying to save Peter, and then her dad not realizing who she is, and then she goes back to her world and tells her dad, like, this is my badge, like, you put on your, like, you're a cop, right? Your badge signifies your duty. My mask is my badge, and this is my duty to help people. Like, believe in me, or like, please respect me. And then when they're in the Spider-Man India, Mumbattan, you can hear Spider-Man India go, like, trying to save his girlfriend's dad, or save his girlfriend in this bus, like, flipping the bus, right? He's like, Spider-Man India is like, I can do both. Which is then what Miles says later to Spider-Man 2099 about, I could save everybody, or I could save my dad, because my dad, there's these things called the canon events, which then we see different references. We see Spectacular Spider-Man in the Spider Lair. The Spider Lair was incredible. When they go there, we see all sorts of different Spider-Man. We see Spectacular Spider-Man. We see the PS4 Spider-Man, which is such a great reference to there he is, there's PS4 Spider-Man. And another Easter egg, we see some different villains when Miles is running from 2099 Spider-Man. But one of the best cameos in this movie was Danny Glover as the Prowler. Such a great callback to Spider-Man Homecoming when Aaron Davis was in that movie. And people were theorizing, hey, he could be the Prowler in the next live-action Spider-Man. And there are rumors that there's a Miles Morales live-action movie coming, which I highly doubt it at this point in time, because I think that it's too early. I think that Tom Holland needs to develop a little bit more. But seeing the Prowler with Tom Holland isn't so far of a stretch. Like, they could still do that. They could still have Prowler in there before Miles. But I don't know. But seeing him in this movie as a Prowler was like, oh, there he is! So that was cool. I did that a bunch of times. Like, there's that Bombastic Bagman is briefly there. Spider-Cat's there. There's a Spider T-Rex. Really cool stuff. But when he's talking about the canon events, and it shows, like, Andrew Garfield's... by the way, in the trailer you hear Spider-Man 2099 go, don't get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 99999. That's a reference to No Way Home. There's another reference when when Miles is talking to his roommate about to his roommate, and he's like, his roommate said, "I'm not your guy in the chair," just like Ned does. It's so good. I love it a lot. So when Miles is talking to Spider-Man, Miguel O'Hara, he said that in the canon events that his dad will die because he's getting sworn in as a captain, and then he goes to save this kid. Miles' dad goes to save this child from a falling building, and that's how he ends up dying because it's canon. But Miles is like, no, I don't believe that. I'll go save my dad and help other people. I can do both, which is what Spider-Man India just said earlier. And this is all tying back to this story, this backstory, this lore of Gwen's past, of then you can hear of what Spider-Man India says, and then now Spider-Man India's world is going haywire because of the spot and what Miles actually saved Spider-Man India's girlfriend's dad, and now their world was falling apart. So now Spider-Man 2099 has to come save it because of this event that happened. This anomaly that happened. So I just was fascinated by this story. And then when Miles takes off running, it's like, no, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. I'm done. Runs away. And Peter Parker, his mentor, Peter B. Parker, shows up from the first movie and is like, go easy on the kid. He has a baby now, Mayday Parker, that he tells Miles he had the baby because of Miles, of how great Miles was, how great Peter thought Miles was. And that's why he decided to have the kid. And I thought the kid was adorable. He just kept showing pictures of like, here's a picture, here's a picture, here's a picture. And and he's like, Peter's like, says to Miguel, can't you be fun? We're Spider-Man, we're supposed to be fun. Why don't you know Spider-Man that's not fun? We're supposed to smile. But I just laughed, chuckled at that. Then we have this whole fight with the Spider-Man, like, and Miguel says, go after Spider-Man. We have the pointing scene, which really worked for me. It really worked for me because it wasn't just cheapened out like, oh, they've done that again. They're doing it again. No. It worked this time because they're like, who? It really worked. And then we have this whole fight with trying to get Miles. And there's this joke where it's like, this guy is at a Spider-Man therapist time. He's like, my uncle. I was with my uncle. And he's like, let me guess. He died. It was great. And then they have this whole fight here across the spider layer, going outside, and then they're on a train. This train fight scene was insane. Then they have like through these cars and the roadway, and then they're on the train. And I don't have an issue with it, but I still find it funny. There's always a Marvel movie, or not a superhero movie with a train scene. I guess there wasn't in Quantumania, but I digress again. But there's a superhero movie with a train in it. It's awesome. Just like the first movie had a train scene. But I loved the whole fight sequence. It was amazing. I could not believe... I just was on the edge of my seat the whole time with Miguel O'Hara and what Miles does. Not sacrifices himself, but just gets out of his way and turns him off. So he leaves that fight, or he's like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. He leaves the fight. He's off the train. Miguel tries to go after him, but he sends him to his own world. He sends him and Gwen to their worlds. But something doesn't go right. So you think that they end up in their own worlds, but when Gwen's back in her universe, she talks with her dad. That's the point at the movie where she talks with her dad about, this is your badge, you wear your badge for this reason, and this is my mask, and this is my badge, and I wear it for these reasons, right? So, at that point in time, then you see her dad give her a box, a gift that Hobie, Spider-Punk, left for her. Which, you can tell it's who it's from based upon the box and the design of the box. She opens it up, and it's one of the bracelets that, by the way, I forgot to mention, that when they're in the spider layer, when they're glitching, they wear these bracelets that stop them, like these day passes that they're called, from stopping them to glitch. And then all the other spider people have these bracelets, these watches on that control that make them go to the other universes. So at this point in time, she gets this box, which is from Spider-Punk, that makes her can, because it says on there, in case something goes wrong. I'm so glad he's looking out for her, not as a romantic, not in a romantic way, but I'm so glad that he trusts, that is on their side, that there's spider people out there in this movie that are on their side, and the end of this movie is great. So I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but this thing says, in case something goes wrong, and she travels to where she thinks Miles would be in his universe, where we think he is. So meanwhile we go back to Miles, and he's having a conversation with his mom, telling her the truth. He wants to be honest with her because of this whole thing that happened with Miguel, and he's like, no, forget that. I'm going to tell my parents the truth. I am Spider-Man. And Miles and Gwen had a little conversation earlier, a little fling thing. So cute. I want them to get together in the next movie. Their dynamic works so well. I think they're so cute together. But when they're talking earlier, that she says Miles, or Gwen always falls for Miles, or for Spider-Man. And then she, in that same conversation, he's like, should I tell my parents? And she's like, no, don't, because she told her dad and bad things happen. So at this point in time, he's trying to tell his mom the truth, and he's like, I'm Spider-Man. Revealed, takes it off, shows her I'm Spider-Man. She's like, who? Who's Spider-Man? Oh, this is one of your times when you like to dress up as one of your favorite characters, right? What is happening? What? So then we see a shift, and we see Uncle Aaron come into the play. And then we know, oh, this is a different universe. Like, Miles is glitching. Oh. See, because before I was like, isn't his room all different? Like, it's not the same, not decorated the same as when it was before when Gwen came in. What? Okay, he starts glitching, then we see Uncle Aaron come in, it's like, oh, it's another universe, because before, when Miguel said, the spider that bit you wasn't supposed to bite you, it was supposed to bite someone else, it was from a different universe, and that's what the spot also said, the spider that bit you wasn't supposed to bite you, or not, that's not what Miguel said, I think the spot said it, but, man, that was such a twist, and we get that was such a twist. We see an even bigger twist at the end, which I even called later, when Uncle Aaron comes up and he is talking to Miles, and he's like, and something hits him. I was like, I see what's happening here, because I saw a post a couple days before this movie came out, was like, where somebody saw the movie and was like, what if Miles, in this action figure, what if Miles was somebody else? What if Miles was the Prowler? So I'm going, you know what? Because on this wall, in this mural, it says, because in the universe, Uncle Aaron's alive. On this mural, it has, instead of Uncle Aaron's rest in peace, it says Jefferson Davis, rest in peace. So I'm going, okay, Miles is in this universe. What if he's not Spider-Man? What if he's the Prowler? Which is so awesome, and I called it even before he showed up. And remember when Peter in the first movie was chained up to the beanbag? I guess not chained, but tied up to the beanbag. And Miles is done the same way. Uncle Aaron turns up this music, and Miles in this universe comes up to our Spider-Man Miles and says, I'm Miles Morales, but you can also call me the Prowler. And I was like, yep, I called it. Such a big twist. 2 twists. One, he's in another universe, and one where he's the Prowler. It was just such a big twist. I was blown away. And then Gwen, at this point in time, teams up with Hobie, Spider-Punk, Spider-Man, India, I think Peter Parker with his baby, Mayday Parker, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker with the robot, and Spider-Ham, and maybe Jessica, no, I can't remember, there's somebody else, I think those 6 people, Spider-Gwen, and maybe Ben Reilly, I can't remember who else there was on that team, maybe that was everybody, but she teams up, is going after Miles, you see, like, you hear, like, the band, the Gwen Stacy band Daniel Pemberton theme in the background going boom, 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 and then the portal open where the bracelet so they could go through to save Miles, and then the screen darkens, and that's it, and it says to be continued, and we're all like, ah! So that's how it ends, and hearing people say that the way this movie ends doesn't feel like it's a full story, I get it, but it's still a movie to me. I don't know. I don't know. I still think it's a great sequel. Empire Strikes Back, one of the greatest sequels to a movie, comic book movie ever. Greatest comic book movie. We're talking Spider-Man. Just it's up there. And I see people. I was talking to this about one of my friends that went yesterday. Was looking on Rotten Tomatoes because he has an issue with Rotten Tomatoes. I created my own account for it because I want to be the person that just that talks about the movies in the right way. But he was like, yeah, these people aren't even analyzing the movie, they're just saying their own opinion, which opinions are fine, but he doesn't like Tomato Meter. And then he was reading like, oh, these people aren't Spider-Man fans because they're just going, the movie was too jumbled and it didn't make much sense. If you're not a Spider-Man fan, if you didn't understand the first one, this one isn't going to be your jam. So, yeah, there's that for you. But the cliffhanger was amazing. All this movie is amazing, from the music, the characters, the arcs, the animation with the different worlds, the Easter eggs, the references from seeing Andrew, Toby. They weren't really in the movie, but seeing the different references to the fight styles, the animation, the references, the Easter eggs, Spider-Man PS4, Prowler, all of it. And the big twist at the end. I mean, this was like what Multiverse of Madness should have been last year. Instead, we got like pizza in a bowl, round pizza with stopping on red, stopping on green, going on red, things like that. It was Paint Universe. It was kind of cool, but not really. It's just random things. But this was like Marvel's Everything Everywhere All at Once. This was awesome. I loved it. Because Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture last year, and for good reason. But this, for me, definitely, I think will win Best Animated Feature. Will it win Best Picture of the Year? But this is Best Animated Feature I can see, because I already know what all 5 of the animated features will be on that list. And if you want to know what they are, this one, Elemental, Mario, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and Trolls. I can assure you those are the 5 films that will be on there, and I can assure you this one will win it. So, but Best Picture is kind of chin-scratching, going, I don't know. But I've heard people say of the movie that this beats out Air. This is my favorite movie of the year so far, and I think it's going to be that way till the end of the year, because you can't go wrong with Spider-Man. And this really hit me in all the right ways. I did not cry at it like I did No Way Home, but there was an emotional scene. There were amazing animation, everything from the score, the characters, the arcs, the fights, story, the twist, the references, the universes. Mama. If you have not seen this movie, check it out in IMAX first, and if you want to see it a second time, just go. Just go again. I feel like I need to see it again, but in a week from now, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks, and then by that time, another week will hit, and Indiana Jones comes out. So then I'm seeing other movies this year, but my God, this is definitely a must-see in theaters. I tell you to go see it in IMAX first, because the screen is worth that image, and then go see it again, and multiple times, because I don't know when this movie's streaming, but hey, it is one of my favorite movies now. It's in like my top 10 movies of the year, maybe my top 5 movies of all time. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this review, guys. I have been so pumped, so giddy. The movie, I just kept, when we saw this on IMAX, I'm like, man, how am I going to get out of this? Because I'm sitting here going, like, I can't have my feet up. So how am I going to, like, bounce? Because I'm going to be bouncing the whole row here. My friends would be like, Spencer, stop. But I was just giddy. I was, like, drumming on my feet, drumming on my lap. And then my friend, we were, like, all drumming because the music was awesome. So that's how awesome this movie was. We were all having a great time. We all came out buzzing. By the way, I didn't mention, click the card up there if you want to see our vlog of the movie. We talked a long time about it, about 14 minutes. So be sure to click that card up there. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow me down below, Boba Fett and can't speak. Boba Fett Jedi Master on Instagram. Links down below as always. Like to like, subscribe, follow me. Don't forget to keep calm, play that go. Peace out, everyone. Bye.